I'm Ben, and this is Kevin Dart.
Hi, Internet.
Hello. How many people are here right now? Just out of curiosity.
Who knows? We got a little bit of a lag because of internet, but let me check Twitch.
Okay. No worries.
Let me check Twitch.
No worries.
Let me check Twitch.
Oh, there's a chat we can see.
Yeah, so that's cool. Just for you guys. Stream manager. Hitting some buttons. Alright, let's see who we got in chat. Well, you have people following.
Alright, well let's just keep it moving then. So thanks for joining us today. My special guest is Kevin Dart. He is the creator of Yuki 7, which is why we're here twitching today. And he is also the founder of Chromosphere Studios, an amazing motion graphics commercial studio. If you don't know, definitely check it out. And today is the official release of episode 1 of Yuki 7. And I was super excited that Kevin contacted us, but I've always been excited about Yuki 7. I think back in, I believe it was 2011, maybe a while back.
Yeah.
But I've known Kevin for a while, and seeing the evolution of Yuki 7 back then to what it is today, it's been pretty amazing. There was a lull for a while where there was nothing Yuki 7 related. And, I had always been curious, and now I know what he's been up to. So this is going to be exciting. We're going to watch the first episode with you guys. If you haven't seen it, it's fine. You can see it after this. We're going to watch it. I think we're going to watch it one time through without any commentary and audio from us. And then so you can watch it with us right now. And then we're going to go through it again. We're going to possibly pause it. Kevin's going to give us commentary. And during that time, feel free to chat. Feel free to ask us questions. And then afterwards, we are going to... I'm going to ask Kevin some questions. You guys can ask Kevin questions. Either of us questions. And we may show some behind-the-scenes artwork. And yeah. So before we begin, I wanted to say also thanks for joining us because we just dropped the Yuki 7... Can you see the pin there? All the Yuki 7 related products. So we have the Yuki 7 enamel pins that just dropped. We also have this amazing movie sort of poster that just dropped. The shirts we don't have on us right now. They actually just finished printing today, but those are finished and those are available now as well. And if you haven't already seen them, the 2 Yuki 7 books are also available now on our website. So,
And these are the very last copies of
these are the very
this
last
book,
copies.
Seductive Espionage book, and I brought some special slip cases for them that we had left over.
Yes. And so, any books? Okay, so another thing is any Yuki 7 related merchandise or Kevin Dart prints that you purchase from now till 6 p.m. you will automatically be entered into a raffle drawing that we're going to do at the end of the Twitch stream. And there will be 2 winners. One winner will win this Yuki poster from our, I think it's 2011 show. And Kevin will sign it for you. And then another winner will get the Yuki 7 bundle, which includes the enamel pin set, one of the t-shirts, both of the Yuki 7 books, the Yuki 7 print, and I think that's it. Yeah. So definitely from now till the end of the session at 6 p.m., all purchases made on our website will automatically be entered into a raffle. So every item equals 1 raffle ticket. So you increase your chances of winning that way. And lastly, all prints and books purchased from now till September 1st will be signed. We will make sure to get it signed by Kevin. I'll make sure.
Ben said he's coming to my house.
Yes. I'll just stand in front of his house and just knock on his door. But let's begin. Let's check out the episode.
Alright. Click the buttons. Transition. Cool. You guys are in the corner. You're still visible. Here it is now.
Missile spikes, go! Ah, yes! Rocket, are you there? Rocket, come in.
Hello?
Rocket, are you heading to the rendezvous point?
Yuki, you're breaking up.
Rocket, I'm on my way to the harbor. Do you copy?
Harbor.
Just click
Click on the man? I can't understand anything she's saying.
Perhaps we just stick to the plan, as Yuki always says.
Yes, and the plan that never fails is smashing things. Rocket turtle, go!
Rocket! What? Oh my gosh, are you guys okay? Ah! Okay, stay right there. I've got an idea. Time for Operation Surf and Turf.
Hey, watch where you're going!
Dino roast, my favorite. Whew, okay, not bad for a backup plan. Ah! We have you surrounded, Yuki. Return the microchip or face our wrath. Classic ambush on the docks. Forgot to include this in Operation Surf and Turf.
Oh, man. Oh, man, Yuki's in trouble. She needs our help, Dr. Goldpaws.
Uh-huh. Didn't she ask us to stay here?
It's like Yuki always says. Make your own plans.
She never says that.
Initiating sequence. Shell shock!
What's that part of your, what do you call it? Operation Scarf and Barf?
No, but this is...
You idiots! She's escaping!
It's Yuki!
Let's get out of here.
We sure gave those raptors the old shell shock, right?
Yep, sure did. Okay, get home safe, Rocket.
Roger. See you later, team.
Welcome home, Yuki.
Man, that was exhausting.
You made it look easy.
I know Rocket means well, but it would be a lot easier if he followed my plans.
I suppose his methods are unconventional.
Well, at least we're all safe. And all we lost was a helicopter. Again.
Another one bites the dust, I suppose.
Initiate cleaning cycle. Cleaning cycle complete.
I wish we knew who was sending us on these crazy missions. What's so important about those microchips?
Beats me. What? You always figure it out, even when things don't quite go according to plan.
You've always got my back, GP. Ellie, where do our missions come from?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. Would you like some tea? Or your favorite? Pain chocolat.
No, that's okay.
Okay, dispensing tea.
What are these things even for? Oh, weird.
We may not have all the answers, but all things considered, we have it pretty good here.
Yeah, just an everyday life in a high-tech beach house with a trusty talking cat and a turtle man sidekick. What else do we need?
Lowering the desktop audio and make sure audio input should be live now. Can everyone hear us? Beep boop, beep boop.
Can everyone hear us?
Pretty sure they can.
There's a bit more lag than.
Alright.
We don't need to see Scott.
Oh god, my algorithm.
We do need to see cats though.
There's a video on there called Mommy Issues but a playlist.
So I guess
Awesome, that was great. Thank you. Well, okay, so we'll play it again. We're gonna watch it through again. Real quick for those of you joining us. First of all, can everyone hear us? Okay. All right. For those of you who just joined us, we are watching the Yuki 7 episode 1 with Kevin Dart, and we're gonna watch it again with commentary, and then after that, we're gonna have a Q&A session. But today is also the drop of some Yuki 7 merch that we have. Just to remind everyone, we have the enamel pin, we have the print, we have the Yuki 7 books, the last few copies or whatnot, and the shirts, which aren't here. But everything that you purchase from the shop today, that's Yuki 7 related, will get you automatically entered into a raffle drawing that we're going to select the winners at the very end of this session, and they're going to be able to win. One winner is going to win this poster behind us, and then the other winner will win a Yuki 7 bundle with a little bit of everything. Yeah, and with that, let's dive into episode 1 again, but this time with Kevin's commentary.
Let me send you back over to that screen. There you are.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll go through it again and pause in certain places to talk about it. Oh.
Oh, sorry. Let me do something real quick. Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Here, can you lower the volume on the YouTube a little?
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, first of all, this title theme is by the band The Go Team. They're I always describe them as like, I mean, they're kind of a rock group, but they're also kind of just this mashup group where their sound is like, it's got all these crazy influences from like hip hop to like marching band music to like double Dutch chants, like all this kind of stuff kind of rolled into an amazing musical sound. And I've always thought I've always kind of thought of Yuki as sort of a mashup property where it's like all these different things that I'm kind of rolling into one really cool thing. So I thought that their sound was just perfect. And I remember, I think they had put out an album called Semicircle around 2018, and I was just listening to it everywhere. I was driving and just like over and over and over again, and I suddenly thought like, man, this is the perfect music for Yuki 7. I was starting to picture it, and I talked to our producer Sarah, and one morning I was like, I had this idea yesterday, like this is never gonna happen, but like we should just reach out to the Go team and see if they would do the music. And we looked them up and like found out how to contact them, and I think they got back to us like pretty quickly, and we're just like, that sounds cool, like what do you guys have in mind? And it all happened so quickly. I think from that to when they sent us a first demo of the song was like maybe just a couple of weeks or something.
Oh, wow.
When I think I got, because they're in the UK, and
they're in the UK.
Yeah. So
when I was gonna say, like, how did you find out about their music even? Because you said you were listening to them in your car. Like, well, who introduced you to them?
I've just been a fan of them forever since the first album of theirs I heard was Thunder Lightning Strike, which came out sometime in the 2000s. Had this video a lot of people knew with like this person in the Pac-Man suit running around a city or something.
Okay. So that was kind of your introduction to it.
Yeah, and so I've just kept up with them since then. And that album Semicircle was the first new one I had heard in a while. But yeah, so they're in the UK, and so I remember the morning I got the song. It was like the first thing I saw when I woke up because they had sent it during their daytime, and I played it, and I just thought like it's one of those moments where you feel like you must still be in a dream or something, because I can't believe the Go team just wrote a song for this and then sent it to me, and it was just amazing. And it was also something where like I think the whole time this project was going along, these things kept happening where I thought, well, now I've got to make this even better because of this thing. Like this music is so good. Like I've got to do this justice now. So that was like we had already started working on the episode at that point, but I don't think we'd started on the title sequence yet, or maybe I had done a rough one. Another thing about this is when I first started conceiving the title sequence, I was initially picturing something like MacGyver, like the MacGyver intro. So it has like a lot of those intros where it's kind of like scenes
montage
from the show, yeah, kind of like a montage sort of thing.
Oh, right, scenes from the show, montage. MacGyver.
And then like the thing where like they find a character and then pause it and there's a title. Like I always really like that language. But with the music, it kind of evolved from just that to like there's sort of like two threads in the title sequence. One is it's Yuki getting ready and driving her bike away from this building that's exploding, and then bad guys chasing after her. So like it keeps cutting back between that and then random clips from the show, some of which are made up and some of them aren't made up. So it ended up being kind of like inspired by a couple of those different things.
That's cool.
If people have questions about specific parts too, I'm happy to answer.
So that part was all not from the show. That was specifically made for the intro.
Right, that was made just for the intro. And then this is like just a scene that never happens on the show. This is actually a scene that not to spoil stuff, but this does happen in episode 3, but we totally redid it because like we made this before we ever got to making episode 3, and so we ended up sort of recreating this moment that you'll see when that episode comes out. Oh yeah, and since bringing up the actors' names, Something I was telling Ben just a few minutes ago. When we started thinking about casting the voices for this, it was really interesting because these characters kind of lived in my head for such a long time, but I never really pictured what their voices could be, especially with Yuki. I didn't really. There wasn't a single voice in my head. I just felt like I knew who she was, and I felt like if we could find the right person that could just fit her personality, that it would all kind of work itself out. And so we looked at just tons and tons of like auditions and reels and stuff like that, kind of going through everything, and then just sort of towards the very end came across this incredible actress from New Zealand named Xana Tang, and I just thought like everything about how she is as a person and the way she kind of carries herself in the clips that I had seen, I just thought, oh, that's Yuki's character. And I was like, I never pictured her being from New Zealand, but it kind of doesn't matter. And so we ended up sort of tweaking the character. Like we made her from New Zealand now, like, and like Xana just sort of like brought all this extra roundness to the character that I really didn't expect.
When she like, you talk about hearing auditions and stuff, are you just getting a series of tapes, or are you like just talking to these people on Zoom, or like are they sending you like acting reels, or like how is that? Because it's voice acting essentially, right? So
it was all different things. Sometimes it would. I think sometimes we actually got auditions where people would read lines, and other times it would be like a reel. Like I remember with Xana, she had there was just a website with a couple clips of her in a few different shows, and I just thought she was able to be funny, she was able to be lighthearted, but she could also be really serious and focused, and just had this really cool range that I just thought I want that person. Like I don't want her doing a voice, I don't want her like playing a character, I just want her to be herself. Yeah,
that's cool. What else, I mean, is she in anything notable that we might have watched?
She's in the live action Mulan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty notable.
She plays Mulan's sister.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna watch out for her then.
Yeah.
Wait, but she's definitely not from New Zealand in that one.
Yeah. And then also, so Piat, who plays both Rocket Turtle and Dr. Goldpaws, we just, I think for budgetary reasons, we were looking for someone who could maybe do both of those characters. And so we sent out for auditions of people doing both of those, and he just absolutely nailed it. Like, and he also just like, he already sort of like knows a lot of the influences, like he knows exactly what we're going for, and he just dial these things in really perfectly, and I think just really connects with the Rocket Turtle character personally. And so he just loves playing the kind of over the top sort of character that he is. And then sorry just hanging pause on the screen for so long, but like the biggest thing that's changed about this property since we last did anything in 2011 is these new characters.
Yeah,
the Rocket Turtle and Goldpaws, and I think basically what happened was like I started to feel kind of bored of the straight sort of spy genre thing that we were doing with it, and I just thought I want this world to get like bigger. I want like a bigger variety of stuff. There's other things I'm really influenced by, like that aren't just spy movies. You know, there's like a lot of things like Kamen Rider. A lot of these the like old sci-fi shows like The Prisoner, the show UFO, Thunderbirds, all this stuff, and I wanted to like figure out how do we put all that stuff in, and I just came up with these characters. Rocket Turtle is really a lot of his physical presence is inspired by Gamera, because I've always been a really huge Gamera fan. And Goldpaws, I just like I love cats, and I always thought if Yuki had a pet, it would be a cat. But he was also sort of inspired by The Cat from Outer Space, this old Disney movie where there's this alien cat that comes to Earth and starts talking to everybody. It's this little tabby cat
I think I remember
that wears a special collar that glows. And I thought it'd be funny if Yuki had this pet cat who she could talk to and he kind of acts as her confidant. But she also sort of places a lot of responsibilities on him. Like, you can manage these computers and stuff. And he's like kind of like out of his wheelhouse with all of it. So it was really just to like make it more fun. Like, I didn't like. I think I just felt like I wanted to get away from the straight serious spy drama kind of thing and just move to something more fun, something that felt like more of an open playground.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where all those influences came into it.
I'll come back to asking you about that because, yeah, I remember hearing about what it was before and even you sort of pitching it to various studios and stuff. But we'll come back to that.
We do have a question from chat real quick. Kevin, can you talk about the style of the cartoon, how you developed it, and how it relates to the art you did over the years for this world?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things that happened with the art style is that I stopped doing it. I like, honestly, I mean, I love drawing Yuki, I love drawing this world, but I felt like I'd sort of like put enough of that out there and I wanted to see what other people did with it. So we started with our lead character designer, Keiko Murayama, took a pass on the characters. I just wanted to see what would she do with them, how would she kind of interpret this world, and I just sort of fell in love with the way she drew the characters, and so that sort of became the new style for that, and then everything else kind of started deriving from that. There's an amazing artist we've worked with at the studio named Elaine Lee, who she kind of did some of these early concept paintings we had for the scenes in Hong Kong, where it was kind of like really frenetic and sketchy and mixing all these like halftone and print patterns in there and stuff. And we also early on were prototyping some of this stuff in Quill because I wanted, like, I knew I wanted to do it in 3D because we were kind of like working on this
doing it in Quill, that's like really 3D. Like you had the virtual thing on it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So we like I knew that I wanted to do a 2D 3D hybrid thing, which we've done with a lot of our projects at the studio, but I wanted to do something that was just a lot less controlled. Like I was like, I want these models to feel imperfect. I want them to feel sketchy. I want the animation to be rough. Like I don't care about characters bending their arms and having geometry intersect and all this stuff. Like I want it to feel like really kinetic and natural and kind of handmade, even though we're doing it in 3D.
Yeah.
So we from very early on, we actually put Elaine in a VR headset and had her sketch out kind of a layout for the Hong Kong sequence in there that we actually ended up using as sort of a template for building the final thing out. And it ended up being kind of a mix of approaches in the end. So like we ended up like we would do these clean models in Maya, and then we would take them into Quill and sketch over them and add these extra details to them and kind of mess it up basically. So then later on, when you're animating it, all these kinds of interesting things are happening. Like I really like the scenes where Yuki's on her bike because there's all these extra details and things on there that really show up when all the lights are kind of flashing around her. And we had this amazing modeler at the studio, Lucy Xu, who put all the models together and also did a lot of the sketching over the models in Quill and everything, and kind of built the whole 3D foundation of what it ended up being. And she was in there like building out the entire Hong Kong set, putting all the signs, everything.
So not to get too deep into the technology aspect, but you mentioned Quill quite a bit. Is a lot of what we see on screen, was that sort of was some of it made in Quill, and then do you export it out to like a 3D program, or do you do vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's majority not Quill. Like eventually, like we started this process of kind of doing something in Maya, putting it in Quill, sketching over it, then putting it back in Maya, rigging it, and eventually started figuring out that once we had some of these sketchy marks and random polygons and stuff, that we could just start duplicating those quicker in Maya and get the same kind of feeling without having to do the kind of back and forth process.
Yeah.
So we kind of figured out how to do that style, but without using Quill eventually, just to save time, honestly. So yeah, and then that kind of went through to all of the designs, like even in the backgrounds and stuff. Like the show's like a mix of, like, a lot of the backgrounds are 3D, but a lot of them are 2D. Like this one is a 2D background with 2D helicopters on it. But then, like, during the Hong Kong sequence, almost all of those backgrounds are fully 3D. So it was really just kind of like trying to get into the style in a really comprehensive way and let it sort of bleed into all of it.
Also, we got like a couple questions in chat, but I'll save all of them for the Q&A section.
Let's keep moving.
Okay. The moment always makes me laugh where Rocket Turtle covers Goldpaws up with his big hand. I just wanted to highlight that.
He got Mike Wazowski.
That's great.
So yeah, this whole sequence in Hong Kong, we really planned out like kind of a live action shoot. Like we were like another big influence was a lot of
Ghost stories or something. I was gonna say because of the live action aspect. I was gonna.
Oh well, I was thinking about some of the older Jackie Chan movies from like the 90s, like Rumble in the Bronx, like Police Story. Like I was watching those a lot and trying to just look at how they coordinated these insane sequences in a real space, and I wanted to see if we could do something like that in animation. So we actually plotted this all out as a map. Like we built out this little section of Hong Kong and thought like, okay, here she can like go through this alley, and then like this raptor's gonna explode here, and like I mean a lot of it ended up being faked because like in the show she's traveling down these streets for like kind of a long time and going like really fast, and we couldn't make the set that big, so there's some like old school like Warner Brothers style just like repeating background stuff, but it was kind of conceived of as like a seamless sort of action scene.
Mrs. Spikes, go! Hi, yes! Rocket, are you there? Rocket, come in. Rocket, are you heading to the rendezvous point? Rocket, I'm on my way to the harbor. Do you copy? Do you copy? Just the L.
So that moment where Rocket crashes into the building was, I think, the very first thing I ever thought of when I was sort of thinking. I just thought it'd be fun to do another Yuki project and have. Somehow this just came into my mind. I was like, Yuki has a plan. She knows what she's doing, and then this guy is just like out of his mind, and he's like flying this helicopter and crashes it straight into a building, and like. You just see this whole plan kind of start to crumble because of this guy just kind of being incompetent, and it somehow just came to me, and I just really enjoyed that dynamic of it's kind of like Yuki's sort of out of her element, like she can't really be totally in control of the situation because there's this uncontrollable element in Rocket Turtle, and so I just thought. Something about that dynamic just made a lot of sense to me, and so everything kind of sprung out of that one moment. And then another thing I was gonna say is like all the technology they use, like the vehicles. I really wanted them to be really chunky and kind of old school. Like what our lead animator Tommy did all this cool stuff with the helicopter moving, where it feels like such a chunky like. 70s era kind of helicopter.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It was like, what sort of era did you imagine the Yuki 7 world to be in? Because like I know the old stuff was definitely more spy, maybe like 60s, 70s.
This version, I sort of consciously thought it's like 10 years, like a version of Yuki that takes, or that would have been conceived of like 10 years later in like 70s, 80s kind of era. So all the technology, the computers are meant to feel really clunky and old like that. Like we were looking at the computers in Alien, you know, where it's like you hear these like mechanical bits kind of clunking along, and that sort of like inspired the look of so much of the gadgetry and the vehicles and everything like that.
It's cool.
Yeah. It's also this was a hard thing to. I mean, we're meant to just be thrown into it, where it's like I thought that there's no sense in like spending a lot of time setting up who these characters are. It's better to just kind of show them in a moment. Like, let's just join them. I mean, it's kind of like in James Bond movies, they always start in the middle of some crazy action sequence kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff we're just setting up here. It's like, okay, who is this girl on the bike? Like, what is she doing? Who's this crazy turtle guy crashing helicopters into buildings? And so it's all kind of just, it's introducing these elements that we kind of slowly start to explain during the series, like what this all is. Yeah.
Are you guys okay? Oh. Okay, stay right there. I've got an idea. Time for Operation Surf and Turf.
I wanted this sequence to have as many explosions as we could fit into it.
Oh, I love that face.
Dino Roast, my favorite.
Those explosions are so cool.
Yeah, and also the all the effects in here are totally 2D. And usually when we didn't need to make a character 3D, we would just make them 2D.
Huh.
So this this villain here,
That's 2D?
who we just called Mini Boss, she's a 2D character.
Oh, wow.
The Raptors we made 3D because you just see them zooming around on their bikes so much, just made sense. But like that guy driving the taxi cab is a 2D character because we're like, he's just in one scene, let's make him 2D. And also with the effects, we just thought it would be cool if we animated them all in 2D. And a lot of them were done by this amazing animator Matt Herring, who we met on this project. And he would just, we would do all the 3D animation without the effects, and then he would just animate over the 3D footage afterwards, so that the effects could keep that really kind of stylized look to them.
Or face our wrath.
She's
Ambush on the docks.
Yeah, she's
3D. She's
2D.
2D? What?
Yeah, the
Oh,
bad
wow.
lady is 2D.
Yuki's in trouble. She needs
Very
our help,
convincing.
Dr. Paws.
Sounds like Professor X.
It's like Yuki always says. Make your own plans. Initiating sequence.
This is another thing with his character that we kind of develop, is like he starts kind of thinking all the time that Yuki needs his help, that like she's like in these situations where it's like I've got to go in and be the hero and help her out, when she's actually always the one who's in control and has the plan. And so we kind of developed this throughout the 3 episodes we've done so far, where he kind of starts to understand who she is more and how he can actually help her and be useful to the team.
I'll look forward to seeing that arc. So that explosion was 2D.
Yeah.
So cool.
No, but this is.
I always wondered if she got the earring back.
There was something one of our 3D artists actually helped track for us because she was kind of interested in it. Sharon, who did all the rendering for us, she noticed that Yuki had thrown this earring away and was like, "Do you want her to have that earring when she gets back to the house?" And I was like, "I guess she shouldn't, huh?" And so she meticulously went through and tracked it so that Yuki doesn't have her earring again until after she takes a shower, which I really appreciated because I tend to just not
You
pay
forget
attention
about that stuff.
to consistency stuff.
Let's get out of here.
We sure gave those raptors the old shell shock, right?
That whole dynamic was really hard to figure out. Like it started off in earlier iterations of the episode. She used to get like pretty mad at him because he totally just bungled this mission for them almost. And like through screening it with friends and talking about it, everyone sort of felt like how can she like she can feel like that was sort of crappy, but she also really values her team and values her friends. So we were trying to find this balance, like how do we show that she appreciates her friends, but also really wants this to be better, and she's kind of trying to figure out how to do that. This is kind of a tricky balance.
She's
And then
managing.
Leave the city in destruction.
You're Auckland. Oh, better
Yeah.
get time issues from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Man, that was exhausting.
You made it look easy.
I know rocket means well, but it would be a lot easier if you followed me.
So she's missing the earring there.
This method's
Well, at least we're all safe. And all we lost was a helicopter. Again.
Another one bites the dust, I suppose.
I really wanted her house to have all these moving panels and things in it. There was another show from my childhood I was really influenced by called Mask, where it was all these guys that drove these cool vehicles that transformed, and they had like this kind of headquarters that was in a rock that would lift up, and they would all come out of it and have these cool masks they would put on. And I just thought I want to do something like that. So we all sort of figured out how to build this house where there's like stairways that appear, there's like secret entrances, doors that open for her, and it's also partially underwater. So you'll see when she goes downstairs, the whole second floor of the house is underwater. So
Yeah,
she's got these fish swimming around and stuff, just to feel kind of like as over the top cool as we could possibly make it.
It's very much a headquarters.
Yeah.
Cleaning cycle complete.
I wish we knew you were sending us on these crazy missions. And what's so important about those microchips?
So this is where we start to realize that kind of like the audience, Yuki also doesn't really understand what's going on. Like why is her life so crazy? Why is she in these headquarters? Why is she like always chasing down these microchips and doing all this stuff? And Gold Buzz is just kind of there like, I don't know. I mean, we have a good time, right? And we get to hang out here, and I'm a cat. Like,
It's me. You always
so
figure it out.
this is just kind of the first hint that we get that she's actually sort of troubled by this whole situation and wondering about it.
Ellie, where do our missions come from?
I like these sort of floating polygons on her. You even see the shadow of her.
Yeah. Yeah, that was there were a lot of things where we just thought like, this is really not correct for like a normal 3D production. Like we shouldn't have these floating bits of geometry. Like their faces should be like on their faces.
Right. The pupil is on top of the eye.
Yeah,
and
it
stuff like
really
that.
just all
But it
kind of
feels-
went into this aesthetic where we're like, this is what we want it to feel like. Like
It feels very handmade. It
Yeah.
feels more handmade. It feels like sort of like paper cutout or claymation in a way. And I was going to
Yeah.
ask you about the frame rate as well. It's like, is that what is the frame rate that you guys?
It's 24 frames per second, but a lot of the animation is done at like a much lower frame rate to get it to feel extra chunky. We kind of always just have this philosophy working on this that it's like, let's not spend time doing anything unless it's like really gonna help us. Like if it's gonna help tell a story moment or anything, like if it's like just some detail nobody's gonna notice, let's leave it out. Or even if someone is gonna notice, like there's all these floating polygons on her or whatever, like it kind of adds to the texture of it for us.
I'll listen real quick for chat. If you have questions, we're not ignoring you. Pinky promise. There's going to be a Q&A section later on.
Mixing tea.
What are these things even for? Oh, weird.
Our post sound studio boombox post also did this amazing job with the whole. I would definitely recommend that at some point if you guys can like watch this on a bigger screen and like hear all the sound and stuff, because there's all this amazing subtlety to everything, and like there's these kind of garbled voices that you hear when she's having that vision of the mysterious area that she's seeing that you're going to hear repeated a couple times in the next 2 episodes as she's kind of like just starting to question everything and question why everything is happening like this.
We may not have all the answers, but all things considered, we have it pretty good here.
Yeah, just an everyday life in a high-tech beach house with a trusty talking cat and a turtle man sidekick. What
So
else?
Goldpaws kind of grounds her and like just tries to get her back in the moment and less worried about everything.
This is very alien.
Yeah.
Computer for me. All right.
Yeah, and then this song at the end is also by the Go team, but featuring the band Chai, who's this amazing kind of post-punk, amazing rock band outfit from Japan. And you only get to hear Chai a tiny bit at the very end of this theme song, but in the 3rd episode, you're going to get to hear the full song, where you get to hear all of Chai's part in it. Our lead compositor Stefan came up with a whole kind of style for these end credits. He was talking about Magnum PI, and like we were looking at how they did the credits, and we just thought it'd be really cool to like grab these clips and freeze them and do the credits over that.
Yeah, I love that. Feels very 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, I even like the font treatment, like how there's no sharp edges on the fonts even. It looks like I'm watching it on an old TV.
Yeah, he does like all these really great subtle effects with the font to kind of like blur the edges slightly and round it out, so it gets that feeling of like kind of like an old title that was burned into a piece of film or something. Yeah.
Alright. I'm gonna steal the mouse back from you. Give you
Very
back
cool.
the shot.
Just to remind everyone, and those of you who are just joining us, we've just watched the Yuki 7 episode 1 with Kevin Dart with some commentary, and we also have on the bottom of the stream
Pause button.
is the
Or you just close the lid.
various products that we just released today that's related to Yuki 7. We have the Yuki 7 books, pins, shirts, and stuff. If you purchase anything from now till the end of our stream today at 6, you will be automatically entered into win you'll have a raffle ticket to win 2 prizes. One is this poster behind us, and the other one is a Yuki 7 bundle. Can I see one of the raffle tickets? And our assistant Whitney is literally writing people's names on raffle tickets. So we're gonna announce the winners at the end of the show. So thank you. Now let's see. Is this what they're seeing on screen right now?
No, they're just looking at your faces now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Do you want to catch
Yeah,
up
let's
on
let's answer some questions.
All right, let me scroll through what we missed earlier. Let's see. Did you in the studio also try to incorporate Blender?
No, we didn't. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we ever experimented with Blender, just because the artists who we had at the studio were already really familiar with Maya, and kind of we just sort of had a workflow built around it. But I am interested in Blender and checking it out at some point. We just haven't had the opportunity to yet.
You mentioned that a lot of this was created in what's that program called that makes video games?
Unreal.
Yeah.
So this episode and the second episode were not done in Unreal. These 2 were done using Maya, After Effects, all our usual kind of stuff. But while we were working on those 2 episodes, we came across where we were introduced to this mega grant program that Epic and Unreal sponsor, and applied for one of these grants to do an episode of Yuki 7 using the Unreal Engine. And we're going to be talking about this a whole lot more in the coming weeks, especially leading up to the third episode, which we did make entirely in Unreal. So you'll kind of see the style and see what we're going for in these first 2 episodes, and then we transitioned the whole style into the Unreal Engine and did it all in real time, like rendering all the same kind of effects and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to talk about there too. But
we won't get too heavy into the technical stuff.
Yeah.
Alright. And jumping off of that, how did you incorporate the halftone dot pattern onto your 3D film?
So that's all for these first 2 episodes. It's all compositing magic that was led by our lead compositor and my longtime friend and collaborator Stefan Codell. So he and we also use a lot of this process on other films we've done, like June, or like on the show City of Ghosts. We basically have this way of rendering out a whole lot of passes for our 3D animation, where you'll get like, you know, all these different things like the lighting and the Z depth and all these things that allow the compositors like Stefan to take all those images and process them and add effects to them, add halftone patterns, add a lot of it is also like these raster lines that he added into light and shadow areas to give it kind of an old TV look. So it's really just kind of a scene by scene process of taking all the renders, putting them on top of each other, adding these effects to them, tweaking all the values on them to get like the exact kind of fall off that you want on the characters. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. We're gonna do like a whole kind of like case study breakdown of like how all that was done. I'm sure Steph will do like one of his cool like,
I love
behind the scenes videos
we
of
can
like
do one of these again. But did you kind of create a style guide first, like a visual development guide of like, this is what this scene should look like? Because I saw the color on your guys' social media. I saw the great color keys, but was there like, oh, we want, you know, grain dots here, and we want the background to be blurred this way? Did you make those in 2D first?
No, the final look really just sort of evolved after we had already started producing some 3D animation. Like I sort of just had this gut instinct that I was like, I feel like if we make these things in 3D and make them in this way, like with the sketchy kind of qualities to the models and everything, and then sort of let Steph just run with it and do all these effects and figure out all this stuff, that it's going to add up to something really cool. So we sort of just went into it blindly, not knowing exactly what the final look was going to be. But we did a test scene. It was one of those scenes where Yuki's riding on her bike on the street in Hong Kong, and rendered it out, and Steph did all of his magic to it, and you know, after a few iterations of it, we kind of arrived at this look where we thought that's sort of what we should be aiming for. So even though we had like 2D art and concepts and stuff for it, we didn't really know what that was going to add up to in 3D.
Did you guys board everything out in 2D first?
Yeah, we did do all the storyboards in 2D first. So we had kind of like a traditional storyboard animatic.
And that's what you showed, because like earlier you were saying how like the relationship between Yuki and Rocket Turtle, you guys were kind of working that out. When you were showing your friends, was that all in like 2D animatic stage?
Yeah, I mean, because it was such a like inside the studio project, we kind of like kept evolving it as we were working on it. So like we had the storyboards that we would show around. I think we maybe started animation on the first sequence in Hong Kong before we ever quite finished the storyboards for the other part. And then like we kind of would have to like keep going back and tweaking things, because we'd get feedback on something over here and have to go back and tweak this thing here. But it was, like, we never did it unless we thought this is really gonna make it a lot better. You know, like this is like worth the trouble of kind of going back and tweaking this, or
Yeah.
I mean, we also would always look for kind of like the least impactful way to go back and change things, but it really was like a pilot, you know, like there's so many things you experiment with and figure out when you're doing the first thing of anything. So I think it was pretty natural that we kind of like, because the world and the story were kind of expanding as we were making it. You know, we kind of kept getting more and more ideas. So yeah, you kind of like you try to keep up with it the best that you can, but then at some point you just kind of keep moving forward.
I mean, it sounds more collaborative and sort of free than how a normal episode or like show would be made, where it's like, okay, we lock down the script and we, you know, lock down the boards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a little more, I don't know, jazz going on.
Yeah. No, yeah, it really was. I mean, when we started the boards, the first sequence that we had boarded was that Hong Kong sequence, which was boarded by this amazing artist named Deshaun Mahone, and he plotted it all out, like came up with all the great moves and stuff. And like what I gave him though to start with was like really just sort of these rough beats of like, okay, we're gonna start in the middle of this. Yuki's getting chased by raptors. Rocket's gonna mess up the plan and crash into a building. All the like, just the roughest of beats, so that he could really kind of take it and own it and figure out how he wanted that to actually work, and put in all the extra, you know, moments and character to it. And I just really like that process. Like I like sort of just sliding someone a rough thing, like maybe just see what you can do with this, like, and seeing what like all the amazing color and additions they bring back and add to it. And then yeah, it was just the same thing as we kept going. Like more people would add things or suggest things, and we really just kind of let it go where it wanted to naturally.
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions from the chat?
Plenty. Here's a nice comment from Visicolors that I thought was really neat. They said, I love how the normal dark foreground, lighter as you fade back, doesn't seem to apply as much during the action scenes, but you still have that clarity of visual space from the blocky rendered 3D elements. I think that's nice. Great observational skills.
That's cool.
Lord Sketch asks, what's the frame rate on the action when it's quiet scenes? Like versus non-actiony, like that whole house sequence?
Yeah, the highest frame rate we would ever go. I mean, the film is running at 24 frames per second, but the highest we would animate at was 12 frames per second. Unless the only exception for that was like there's this thing that happens when you're doing stepped animation and you want to do a camera move at the same time. Sometimes it'll create this strange jittering where it looks like the character is kind of like doing this thing. So in those sorts of things, we would have to cheat and like move something on ones just to keep it from doing that kind of jittering thing. But whenever we could, we kept it at max 12 frames per second. And when it was quieter stuff, it would go down to just a lot less, like 4, like 8. I'm just throwing out numbers now, but just less.
But when they
less
say
than 12.
quieter, are they saying like scenes where there's not much movement, or when they mean like?
I think they mean like less action.
Okay.
Because it's a different tempo, like emotionally.
So are we talking about like getting into anime territory where we're like just looking at the screen and our mouths are moving?
Yeah.
Alright, we got another question. From Harry Buttocks. What was the writing process like?
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, like I take the first pass at just writing out like, okay, I had this really rough structure of this thing, then that thing, then this thing, and I share it with our team internally, and just because I really trust all the folks around me, and I'll show it to my wife Elizabeth, and just kind of see what everyone thinks. If it all kind of makes sense, and people chime in with little suggestions of things, and then it just goes to the board artists to board it all out. And then, like I was saying, because this was like our first episode, like we would get to the animatic, then record the voices, and then a couple times we did go back because we got some feedback that we thought was really good and wanted to change something, and we would change it, go kind of like do pickup records from the voice actors, and just kind of keep doing that until it felt right. Just pretty organic.
So from what I remember of Yuki, I don't know how solid the story was before, back in, when you first started working on Yuki. Speaking of, like, just to let people know, when did you first conceive of Yuki?
It was 2008, I think. Yeah.
And it was just something sort of like fun to, like you just wanted to do a spy sort of. Like what inspired Yuki, I guess, initially?
It was a lot of different things, but I mean the main inspiration was my wife Elizabeth. I just thought she. I mean, for anyone who knows her, for anyone who doesn't know her, she's really feisty, and she really she knows how to get things done. So she's the person who created the show City of Ghosts, and since I've known her, I've just always seen her kind of like in the animation industry, just kind of going out there, battling, fighting for these things that she really believes in, and sort of just standing her own against these huge obstacles. And it's always been really inspiring to me to watch that, to watch how she kind of fights for her ideas. And I thought she's a really cool character. And we also, I think around 2006, 2007, we had seen this movie called CQ, where this guy, I think he's working on a movie, and he's also kind of having these daydream kind of fantasies where he's matching up things from his life with things from the movie, and like it's all kind of like you're seeing this really stylized kind of 60s sort of space drama thing that's also reflecting parts of his life. And I always thought that was such a cool idea, and it's sort of in my mind went to like, well, what if I could sort of represent things from my life, but in this world that's populated by all these things that I've always loved and been really influenced by. So that was where it started. I was like, I love the whole world of spy movies. I love this retro vintage kind of aesthetic, and like, what if Elizabeth as this character was sort of in there tromping around doing this stuff? And so it was really just that. And then I think the two initial projects were really just kind of that visual exploration of that idea, like what does that world look like?
And you said the two initial projects, you mean like the books? Were the initial projects?
Yeah, the two books. The first one specifically was kind of conceived as like, I want to sort of convince people that this was a real show back in the 60s that they somehow never heard of, and there's like all this stuff, there's like behind the scenes interviews with actors and stuff like that. And then the second book was more like getting into thinking about what would a spy adventure with these characters actually kind of look like. But then like, I think after that, like in the whole decade between then and now, I mean, there's been a lot of different things where like I had experiences pitching the show to people, like taking it to different studios and kind of seeing what they thought about it.
Yeah.
And it all somehow added up to me just thinking like, but also just growing up and getting older and having other experiences and stuff. There's like, I still like this world, but there's other things I want to put into it. There's other stories and like more kind of complexity to the characters that I feel like I can see now that I want to grow. And it's a really long process, but to me it's just interesting that it's stuck with me this long. Like it still feels like a really accurate representation and portrayal of this stuff, even though I've changed so much as a person. Like I can still change this this property to sort of fit where my life, like where our lives are at right now.
Yeah, I mean the fact that it's still with you, that is already it's very interesting and a very big achievement that you've continued to carry it. I thought you had abandoned it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I wanted to ask was like when you were pitching it to studios, what was the story? How did you pitch it, as opposed to how much it's evolved to now? Like, you kind of touched on it, but like I know you, like we all have, we fall in love with our ideas, but seeing it now and seeing how you talk about how you're letting it's a very collaborative effort now. In a way, like how were you able to sort of let go of the original Yuki 7 and your concept of it?
I think, I mean, I'm always really self-critical of everything, and just whenever you make anything and you get some distance from it, you start to feel like, well, like I sort of always immediately start thinking of like, if I could do this again, I would kind of like do it this way. But it's also just like, I mean, kind of like everything, I felt like the character, I mean, this sounds all kind of made up, but I felt like the character of Yuki 7 kind of went where she wanted to. Like, I sort of felt like, I mean, maybe it's just me projecting that I'm kind of tired of living in this one space and that I want to move on to something else, but it's also just like moving on to all these different phases of your lives. Like Elizabeth and I got married, and then like we had kids, and like everything is kind of changing and evolving, and it just shifts your perspective on everything. But so when we were initially pitching it around, I mean, in the really early days, like I mean, there's been so many iterations. Like there were times when we pitched it.
It was you and Elizabeth pitching? Or
Yeah, it was both of us pitching. And there were times where, like early on, we were pitching it where we didn't have a really fleshed out idea of what would this be as a movie or a TV show, and just kind of pitching as like it's this world, it's like the spy kind of thing. And then later, after the second book, that was when I very first starting to think about these other characters and expanding the world and all this stuff. So even though this is the first time the world is seeing Yuki with these extra friends, it's been that way in my head and in my pitches for a pretty long time before that. But the main thing we always ran into with it, and the reason it never landed at any big studio, like the main piece of feedback was really just that it was too specific, that it was like not like a broad enough idea. There's like it's like hard for a studio to fit this into a box of something that they understand, because it has this really strong point of view, it has this really strong aesthetic, it has a strong female lead, all these things that kind of add up to, they're like, this is just, it's way too specific, which is really counterintuitive to like what you always learn in art school, where you're like always taught like make things as specific as you possibly can, like make them true to how you see the world and all this stuff. But when you're dealing with studios, they're looking for things that can go out to a really big audience and be really broad. So in those kind of situations, things like this tend to not work as well because of that specificity. So it's been interesting to kind of stick to our guns and just feel like, you know, we're doing this because this is the only way I could see the story being told. Like I wouldn't want to see this character living in a broader world, or like where she has like a regular job or goes to school.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, all these like really general kind of broader audience sort of things.
I see. So that they wanted people to be able to identify more with her by having things that.
Gotcha. Like, how do you? That was sort of always a question. Like, how do you take all the stuff that's cool about this, but make it really kind of bland at the same time? She has a day
job.
And it's just like, it's just not. Like, I wouldn't enjoy working on that. You know, like I'd rather just kind of keep going at it in this independent way and doing it this way, because this is the vision that I feel compelled to get out into the world. And
Alright, we got a handful of questions. What made you decide to stop pitching it elsewhere and just start making it happen?
Good question.
The answer to that is that we haven't stopped pitching it.
This is a pitch.
Pitching it right now.
No. There was a point where I thought, you know what, let's just make this, and then like I'm not sure how far we're gonna get. Maybe we won't get that far, but then we kind of kept going and just kept building this momentum, and then things kept happening. Like I was saying, like when we got that song from the Go team, and I was like, oh man, like this, like these things that kind of reinvigorate you and make you feel like, no, we need to keep doing this. Like this is too awesome to not do it.
The name is very fitting as well.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, it's the Go team, so now we have to go and make this.
Yeah. And so initially we did think, well, we can develop this to a place where we can just start pitching it, but it was just so much fun to work on that whenever we had free time, we would just kind of keep tinkering on it. And the entire time we've been developing these 3 episodes, we have been consistently pitching it. People always, you know, we'll show people like sneak peeks of it, like, oh, you have to pitch it here, show it to this place, and we're like, okay, whatever. Like even if we pitch this, like we're still gonna keep doing it this way. So yeah, even this year we've done some pitches, and we're still not sure like what's gonna happen after this 3rd episode. You know, the hope. We have this whole story now, like so much development has happened on this. There's all the backstory with the Lotus program. With,
those
like,
of you joining us, maybe there's some execs out there. Pay attention.
So yeah, it's like a totally unknown future. Like this project has been from the beginning. You know, we didn't know from day one that we would make an entire episode, much less 3 episodes. So it's kind of just continually growing.
I think I think it's awesome because you're in the position to do that. You have a studio to back you up. I was listening to Rat Seacrest, who sold various shows and films, and he was saying, get it to as close to your vision as you can within your means. So if he said, for example, if you can make a graphic novel out of it, but you're trying to make it into a movie, okay, if you can't make it into a movie clearly, but if you can make it into a comic book, do that. If you can make it into a script, okay, you don't know how to draw, make it into a script, do that. Basically get it to as far of a finish as you possibly can before you can sell it to someone else. And you guys have pretty much, this is your limit. You've actually just made the thing. And I think it's great. I think it's gonna get out there. So. Yeah. But yeah, let's see what our next question is.
Our next question is scrolling. What is the history of the Yuki 7 character? I have a print I got from San Diego Comic-Con 7 years ago and just realized that it's Yuki.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you were saying, like back then when we very first started doing things with this character, the highest bar that seemed like an achievable thing for the project was let's make an animated trailer and let's make a book to go with it. Because my friend Chris Turnham and I, so Chris and I we went to school together at DigiPen up in Redmond, Washington. We lived together for years. We worked at our first jobs in video games together, and then we eventually started this business called Fleet Street Scandal together, which was just
I remember that.
It was just us selling prints of our work, and then eventually we thought it'd be cool to make a book, and then just kind of like kept springboarding from thing to thing. So Yuki was originally conceived as like a cool idea for a short film in a book that we wanted to make, like kind of an art book that would sort of set up this property as this vintage show that the world had somehow forgotten about, and you could sort of rediscover by reading the book. And the short film we made was kind of a fake movie trailer to sort of supplement that idea. Like, oh, this is like I never heard of this movie. So it was really just sort of conceived as like an art project initially of like this just seems like a fun thing to do, and we put it out through Fleet Street and sold the books at places like Comic-Con. We had a website and stuff like that. But I guess it sort of just kept building from there. Like I was sort of just surprised to see that people latched onto the character. Like like I said earlier, it was really just a visual exploration at first. It wasn't like I know this character, I know who she is, I know what kind of adventure she's going to go on.
Because at that time, you were both just like trying to get work in animation, correct?
Yeah, a lot of our early work was geared towards like, we really need jobs in animation, and like somehow in our brains it made sense to somehow get to that place by making illustrations, selling them, putting books together, all this stuff. And what I heard from people later on in my career is that they actually thought, because of like the quality of like the printing and all the stuff we were putting out, that we must already have jobs somewhere. And so
Just counter to
all the stuff we were doing was like actually doing kind of a disservice to our goal of just getting jobs. But it did allow us to like, you know, kind of make all these connections into the animation industry, and eventually like start working in animation. Chris went off to work at Leica. I went to Cartoon Network and worked on this show with Genndy Tartakovsky called Symbiotic Titan, and that was kind of like my first industry experience as a background painter on that show. And then, but yeah, so like we kind of like started going about our lives and doing these other things, like finally being in animation, but I just realized I was still just really compelled to do more things with the character. It was just interesting to me. I really enjoyed it. I liked drawing the character. I liked drawing the world. So it sort of just started to take on this life of its own, and you know, people would send me fan art, and I was just like, wow, this is like really, like that this could be a whole world we could kind of keep building on. And so that's kind of what just started the ball rolling into like, let's maybe think about doing another book and another short film, and yeah, and then the whole time in between them, like I know to people who follow us, it's been kind of like this dead space of non-Yuki material and stuff, but it really has been churning this whole time, like as lives are going on, and like we're doing all these things and pitching it around, trying to see what we can do with it.
You started a whole studio during that time, and you even won a bunch of awards and things like that. So you've been busy.
It's been a busy 10 years.
Next.
Alright, next you got, what ideas did you borrow from the Yuki 7 of your head as y'all worked on Carmen Sandiego? What lessons did you learn that you now apply back to Yuki 7?
That's a good question too.
Man, Carmen Sandiego, well, the interesting thing is we actually got that job because the showrunner of Carmen Sandiego, a guy named Dwayne Capizzi, actually knew Yuki 7, and he contacted me because he had seen it and thought this guy might really enjoy doing something in the world of Carmen Sandiego. So when he first called me, it was all because of that, because he had seen Yuki and thought I could just be a really great fit. But then what he didn't know was that I was actually just a huge Carmen Sandiego fan. Like, I played that game constantly as a kid on the PC. I was like just all about it, and I always thought this
Did
could
you
be
sing a cappella?
But it was just one of those things you just remember from your childhood really, really fondly, like as like the first computer game that I remember, along with Oregon Trail. And it just he was really surprised because he thought like maybe because they were doing sort of a new kind of more spy caper kind of angle on it, that's what would be interesting to me. But I was like, I don't even need that. Like I already love Carmen Sandiego. Like I'd love to take a crack at this character. And also, you know, in the original games and stuff, she was sort of just this mysterious villain. You never got to see a lot of her, and I just thought she was cool, like with the red hat and the coat and everything.
She just knew so much about geography.
Yeah, and so I was like, this would be so cool to just explore this character more, and just the world traveling and all that stuff was just really just a natural fit for what I was interested in, and also what the whole team I worked with was interested in. At the time, we were a lot of the folks who came on to Carmen Sandiego early on. I'd also worked with on this show called Peabody and Sherman, where every episode has like a time travel adventure where they go to a new place in a new era, and all of us who worked on the show were just really into that, you know, just appreciating the world, appreciating all these different locations. And so Carmen was like, oh, oh, this is amazing. She's going everywhere. So, I mean, it's all like, it's very glamorous and like these great, cool locations. Carmen's amazing. Like she has this super cool outfit and had everyone just loved it. Like, you know, everyone we brought on the project knew Carmen Sandiego. I was just like, I just wanted to be a part of it. So I don't think I would say Yuki really inspired anything in Carmen Sandiego. It was just that there's so much overlap in what everyone who has worked on Yuki and everyone who has worked on Carmen, like so much overlap in interests and aesthetics and all these things that it was really just a super natural fit for the studio. And yeah, we just had a blast working on it. I mean, it was what Carmen is like one of the projects that sort of built Chromosphere as a studio. Being able to work on that show for as many years as we did, it was just so cool. And like to be able to be involved in growing a brand. I mean, Carmen Sandiego was already a brand, but sort of come in and be able to grow it in a whole new sense. And from just very early starting to develop the show and figuring out what does this new Carmen look like, to even getting to like design some of the book covers and like you know, marketing kinds of things. And it's just been a blast. Every one of the studios just loves Carmen and kind of like what she represents and all that.
Did you do Peabody and Sherman as Chromosphere, or was that just in-house at DreamWorks?
Those just in-house at DreamWorks. That was like my last official studio gig before I started Chromosphere. Yeah.
What are the questions we have?
All right, we got one that is a bit of a bigger question because we understand a lot of your inspirations, but all right, get ready. What inspired the concept of Yuki 7?
Kind of touched on it a little bit earlier.
60s spy movies?
Yeah. It was really just watching my wife, Elizabeth Ito, seeing her whole kind of badass attitude and take on the world kind of mentality, and then mixing that with just everything that I love to draw and see, which is, I mean, at the time it was like a lot of mid-century design stuff, spy movie kind of stuff, and then grew to all these other things that I wanted to wrap into it, like monster movies and just mashing it all together, like sci-fi stuff, like so yeah, just all kind of out of that.
Nice. All right, we're finally caught up on questions.
All right, can you hand me the jar real quick? I just want to show it on camera.
Ugh.
All right. So for those of you joining us, just wanted to remind everyone: every purchase you make during this stream, from now till pretty much 6 p.m., every purchase you make gets you a raffle ticket. So we put your name on the back and we enter it in here, and your chances right now are pretty good. So you can either win this poster behind us from our first UP7 show, and the other prize is the UP7 bundle, which includes the enamel pin set, this print, a UP7 t-shirt. You can let us know what size you want and all that stuff, and one of each UP7 book. And these are pretty much what we call them, the last copies, or
For this one,
there's only a few remaining of these books. So
Will
yeah.
the big poster be signed?
Yes, this poster, Kevin will sign it on camera. We can sign it out. Let's just sign it out. Yeah.
Just get it over with.
Nice. It's there, folks. It's signed.
And every book or print purchased before September 1st will get signed by Kevin as well. So there's that. So yeah, with that, is there any other questions?
We got one more question from our friend Urban Tail. What are the art influences / artists / art movements based upon? I love the style, but I can't find the right word for the art style I see.
It's like a mix of a little bit of like.
Man, yeah,
it's retro, but it also feels very modern and like video gamey as well.
Yeah, it's so many things. The video game aesthetic is definitely in there. Like, so my friend Chris Turnham and I, who I mentioned, started working in video games in like the era where everything was still really low poly, and that like when I went to school for 3D animation, it was like still kind of all about like making really low poly assets for video games and stuff, and I started to just think it was just a really cool style. And I mean, I grown up with like I mean, I've always been so into video games, and like I think a lot about games like Star Fox 2 is like kind of like my earliest idea of what cool 3D stuff was, which is just like, you know, super low poly and designy. Like I was just looking at Star Fox the other day, and I was like, wow, this actually looked really cool. Like this is like, someone needs to like bring this aesthetic back, and like we're kind of doing it a bit in this
Jet Set Radio.
Yeah.
Well. But for those who don't know, Kevin worked on the movie Her as on visual development on the video game in the movie, right?
Yeah, we produced the Perfect Mom video game, and then David O'Reilly did the game with the little alien kid. But so there's always been a bit of that video game aesthetic and like the pixel art kind of thing, but then there's also like I've always just really loved printed materials. Like at home I've got like just collections of like old magazines and stuff, and like just vintage artwork, and I love like all the mistakes that happen in printing. Like whenever we used to do screen prints and stuff, I would always, because we always worked with really great screen printers, and I would always tell them like, can you try to like not
get
do
it
this
off register?
Like I'm really going for like, I don't want it to be perfect. I want all these kind of like offsets and like mistakes, and like I'm totally cool with like blots in the ink and all this stuff. Because to me that's just what makes it look real. That's what makes it look tangible. Like someone actually made this. Because if it doesn't have that stuff, it's like, oh, you could have just printed this off of a regular digital printer or something.
Yeah.
So I've always just really appreciated that. And then the overall art style, I mean, but beyond those influences, it's just grown so organically out of the artists we work with. Like our two art directors on this, Jasmine Lai and Sylvia Liu, who did like the color scripts for it, had. I mean, I've been working with both of them for many years now, and they've had such a huge influence on me with their color sensibilities and their general shape design kind of languages and stuff. So them plus like all the artists at the studio kind of like I feel like organically form this aesthetic together. So like it's kind of like, what do you get when you throw all these ingredients in a pot? Like here's the influences, here's the people we want to be doing it, and then like we're doing it in this new style that's 3D and 2D all at the same time, and you just kind of like jumble it all together and get whatever this is.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do have someone asking about a store thing. Is there an ability to purchase items and have it as local pickup so there's no need for shipping?
Yes, there is. So go ahead and just pay for the shipping first, and then email us and let us know that you want to pick it up, and then once you pick it up, we'll refund you the shipping. So there's that.
Nice. Alright, and we got one question from Mornod901. You mentioned using Unreal in some of the later episodes. What was the motivating factor in using that workflow? Any pain points using a real-time engine with compositing? Some technicals.
Yeah, so we were introduced to Unreal by our executive producer on the project, who's Karen Dufalo, who she was formerly with Google Spotlight Stories and Pixar before that, and she had come into Unreal. She was already kind of working with us on Yuki, and then she came into Unreal to sort of help them with this initiative they were doing to try to get more animators and people using Unreal to make animation. And so it really started as sort of just an experiment, like at first just a thought experiment, like would this kind of thing even be achievable in a real-time engine? And we had no idea at first. We've done a couple of real-time things at Chromosphere, like some VR projects like Age of Sail, where we did these kind of styles that were taking place in real time. but all the stuff we were doing in Yuki, like I thought at the time was so ultra dependent on having this this kind of After Effects compositing process that we have, and it was hard to imagine like how would we even translate that into real time. But it was also just really interesting to me because having started my career in video games and having always loved video games, I've always thought there's some kind of natural path that leads us back towards video games in some way. And so this just seemed like a really cool opportunity to try it out. And so we applied for one of the Unreal Mega Grants to do some of this Yuki 7 animation in Unreal. And then we got the Mega Grant last year and just started working on this whole other... honestly, initially our first idea was like, let's see if we can recreate some of the scenes from the episode we've done and make them look the same way in Unreal. And then at some point I thought, that's just really boring. Like I want to do something totally new and like even more exciting. Like let's not just like try to recreate something. Let's see if we can do something even better and cooler.
Wow.
So that's kind of what led to this whole snowballing effect of like coming up with a whole another episode to do in Unreal, figuring out like all these things. We basically
so you had 2 episodes and then you're like, let's make a third for Unreal?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I can't wait to watch that third.
And basically with Stefan, our lead compositor's help, we sort of figured out how to construct his compositing pipeline in real-time shaders. So he's sort of advising on like, here's all the layers we should do here, and like how to set this up so that the final image ends up looking like what we do in this other process. And it's really incredible. I'm really excited to show it, and we're also going to be doing a lot more things leading up to that episode, specifically around using the Unreal Engine and talking more about like how it happened and how we executed it all. And I'm really excited for when we start sharing that stuff in a few weeks.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
So how long, the first 2 episodes, how long did it take per episode roughly?
I think we started in 2018 on conceiving the first episode, and it started off just really, really, really slowly. Like I think it was maybe a year from when we started it to when we had like an animatic, because it was just a really slow burn kind of thing. I think we had like an animatic in the little test we had done.
You probably had other work that you were doing.
Yeah, there was also, we were doing Carmen Sandiego, we were doing City Ghost, all these things. So it was always like very much on the back burner. And then at some point it just started gaining enough momentum that we were like, we need to like actually devote resources to this. Like we can't, if we just kind of keep doing it whenever we have time, it's just never going to get done. So there was a point where we made a conscious decision of like, let's actually like make time for this so we can get it done, because it's like we think it's really cool and fun. And then during the pandemic, I think the production process actually sped up quite a lot, just because certain projects get put on hold, all these things happen, and we suddenly have more time to do this. But we'd also sort of reached like what I feel like was sort of like a point of no return, where it's like, okay, we've done this amount of stuff at this point, we can't just abandon it. Like,
right,
let's just
cut your losses, or
let's just go on. So and then the connection to Unreal happened, and then it was like, we have like a third episode now. Like we've really got to finish these first 2 now. So like it just kind of like really lit a fire under everything. So I would say a huge portion, maybe around like 70% of the production actually happened during the pandemic, which was really crazy to do. But it was also just, I was telling some of the crew earlier, it was, with how crazy everything has been over the last year, it was always just such a bright spot to have this thing that we could work on that just didn't have any any restrictions to it. It was something we could just do and have fun, and there was never anything we could do wrong. It was like the perfect thing you need when it feels like the world is crumbling around you. And it's like, this is a thing we can
control.
Yeah, we can control it
makes
and
sense.
and have fun, and so we were just really fortunate to be able to keep doing that over the last year.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
Good therapy.
Quick question from Ginger Bear because they missed the first part of the Q&A. Third episode is unreal, but what 3D software was used for the first two?
We used Maya for the first two, and we also used a little bit of Quill for sketching on the models, and then taking everything from Maya to After Effects to make it all look the way that it does in the end.
Awesome. We're doing a quick time check. We're at 5:35. Everyone's got roughly 30 or so minutes to get their purchases in to be entered into our giveaway, which will be happening at the end of the stream. What can you win, Ben?
You can win. So there's two prizes. One prize is this poster here that Kevin just signed from our previous for our first Yuki 7 exhibition. And the second prize is the Yuki 7 bundle, which gets you one of each of these books. The Yuki 7 pin set, which just dropped today, the Yuki 7 print, and one Yuki 7 shirt of your choice.
Alrighty. So that covered. Also, just to mention, any Kevin Dart prints purchased from now until September 1st will be signed by Kevin.
Prints and books.
Prints and books.
Yep.
I noticed someone bought one of the Planet of the Dinosaur or Queen of the
Oh,
someone
man.
bought one of those. I'm like, oh, you dug.
That
was Fleet Street's time.
Yeah, that was actually so that show. This is actually really kind of interesting trivia. But so that show that I did that print for was maybe the second time that I came to LA, and that was like the trip where I had sort of run into Elizabeth at Comic-Con, like I think over that summer or something, and then saw her when we went to so Chris and I flew down from Seattle, and my sister came and my aunt came, and we were like, what is this city we're in? Like, this is really scary. But I wrote Elizabeth or called her, and she like kind of took us around and showed us all this different stuff. And that was like the beginning of our whole relationship, kind of centered around us coming down for that one show at Nucleus.
Oh my god. Wait, that was it the Ninja show? No,
this was like 2006, I think.
What was that show?
I can't remember I don't know what I made that.
Wait, so you're telling me the Nucleus helped facilitate?
In a way, yeah, because it gave us a reason to come down here, and
I like that.
Yeah.
Wait, where are you from?
Brat, so I kind of lived all over, but before Seattle, I lived in San Antonio, Texas, and before that, kind of like all over.
Cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Cool. We got. Okay, I'm trying to check something. There are people asking where if you bought the books before today's event and you're still in.
We'll get them signed.
We'll get them signed, but you're here in the chat with us on Twitch. Feel free to whisper me with the name that your order was placed under, and I will toss some tickets for you. Cool. All right, we're at 5:38, and one quick question: are there plans to introduce some characters from the original Looks Like Kill animation to the current series?
We should watch the original Looks Like Kill animation. It's been a while.
Yeah. I think there's going to be pieces of those characters that you see that they don't show up exactly in the form that they were in back then, but for instance, the main villain from Looks to Kill, she does show up.
Yeah, let's look that up real quick. Oh, how long is that original one?
It's like 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes. You want to find the original one?
Yeah, it's probably on YouTube, right?
I think it is, yeah.
I think I found it before. I watched it in my downtime. I was like, I found all this Yuki 7 stuff. What is that? Looks Like Kill.
And I think the show that we did for Yuki 7 a long time ago was for this book?
Yeah. It was the first one. Yeah.
Alright, let me
what games are you playing now? You're talking about video games. What are some of your? Do you still have time to play video games?
Man, my son has just taken over the video game scene in the house, and so my son is 7, and he like. So like I tried introducing him to classic Mario like a few years ago, and he just like wasn't that into it.
Aww.
And then but he did get into Super Mario Odyssey when I showed him that. And then from there, like especially during the pandemic, he's been on this whole journey through like Mario history where like now and like he figured out how to like get on the Nintendo Switch Online thing where you can play a lot of the old Mario games, and he is now like the world's leading expert on Mario games. And
awesome.
like
there's so much Mario stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think to him like the old games they don't register as like relics or like old interesting retro things. It's just like more of this character that he's fallen in love with. So he's just always diving into it, and so I like hardly get to play games anymore because he's always got the systems and like everything that I had at one point bought for myself. He's now like playing it and has mastered it, and I'm just like, all right, you can do the video games now.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we dug it up. Let me make sure we got audio from it coming on. Desktop audio. All right, you're in control, Captain.
I think you have a very particular graphic design sense. I would almost say that, like, if I didn't know better, I would say like you were trained as a graphic designer almost. You know what I mean? Like, is that a big part of your background, or?
Yeah, that was actually the first thing I wanted to do in art. When I was in high school, I started designing websites and got really into just whole graphic design of websites and website UI and everything. And I just went and knocked on the door at like this graphic design agency downtown in San Antonio that did websites, and was like, can I like intern with you guys for a month or something? And I was in high school, and I would just drive to this office after school and go just sit with them, and they would give me little assignments to make like some banner ad for a website or something. But I remember the folks at that studio introduced me to all these design things that I just never heard about. And it was really my first passion was graphic design and lettering and all this stuff.
Yeah, lettering.
Before I ever actually started trying to develop myself as like an illustrator, it was always graphic design and all kind of about just laying text out in interesting ways and shapes and like thinking about things as pages and stuff like that.
That explains a lot, because I was like, man, but that's one thing that I always like loved about your work, and that I felt like separated you from a lot of other illustrators. Because like, this guy really knows how to play with type, and just the bold colors and things like that.
Yeah, it's just always been a passion of mine. Like I definitely wasn't trained professionally in it. It's just something that I love. Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions?
We do. Need some gadget dog / Dr. Gold costumes. Yes. One quick thing from Lord Sketch 4242. You mentioned that you didn't really have Yuki's character fully in mind. What did you decide on for this series? She seems younger and in the beginning of her career, which is not necessarily what the art suggested before.
I think it's really just that the character wasn't initially figured out. It was really more of like an icon. It was kind of exactly what I always advise artists to not do. I was doing at that time, where it was like, these are all kind of icons and representations of things, and not really like, you're not kind of looking inside of the character and thinking about who they are and what all the story is.
It's more surface level stuff.
Yeah, it was like that's kind of like my main critique of all the early stuff, is it was very surface and just about images, putting out cool images, which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I'm like as visually minded as anybody in the world, so like I'm all about like cool images and stuff, but I think just what I hadn't really started thinking about yet at that point in my career was just the whole story of the character, and like what she represented to me. Like, if this is sort of representing Elizabeth, like what does that mean in the story, and like what's the, like, who is Rocket Turtle, like are there aspects of me that he's representing, and like what is all this?
I was gonna ask that when you were mentioning Elizabeth. I was like, are you Rocket Turtle?
Duality of man.
Yeah, but so it was really just sort of a total reconception and refiguring out, like, kind of starting with like, I know that I like the starting ingredients of this character, but I sort of want to refigure everything out from the beginning, and so this really is treated like this is a new beginning. Like, this story isn't actually related to like anything that was presented in the early Yuki books. It's not meant to tie into the books directly or anything. It's just kind of a ground up sort of reinterpretation of a world that I've always loved, but with a whole new lens for like the story and the background on it and what it represents.
One more question. We're at 5:49, so this might be the end. How does it feel to revisit your past works? If you could talk a little more about that.
It's really awkward. But it's also like, I mean, I think it's easier for me to do now. Like, when I was younger, and by younger I mean like 10 years younger, like whenever I would look at something old, I would like really like cringe up like this. But like, I think now there's an understanding of like, that's just the place I was in at that time, and I made that thing, and I understand, and like I'm at this place now. It's really different, but it's still like, I mean, you can't see anything but like, oh man, like we really, like, we weren't seeing these, like with the animation. I was just like, man, why didn't we even just try to get an animator for this? Like, it could have been so much better. Even though Stefan does like incredible After Effects animation, there's just so much stuff that we've learned and so much knowledge and experience that we've amassed. So it's kind of just like an interesting relic, like looking at any of that stuff, because it's just, I mean, one thing I'll say is that when I was much younger, like coming out of college, I hated my old work to the degree that I would throw out all my old sketchbooks. Like I don't have any of the stuff that I did in college anymore because I felt so ashamed of it, which I really, really regret now, because as much as it's kind of awkward to look at old things, I really wish I had that record to kind of connect the dots of things that I've done. And I've talked to some students about that too, that even if you don't like it now, there's going to be a point later in your life where you're going to appreciate having this record of the things that you've done.
It's like a fossil.
Yeah, because it's just it's always sort of nice to see where you've been. The same way it's nice to sort of like look in your family history and understand like this is where that thing come from. It's nice to sort of have that record. So I've tried to get a lot better at sort of just letting things be what they are, and knowing like I've moved on from that. I'm doing other things now that I think, you know, that they've gone in this different direction or they've improved in these ways. But it doesn't mean that like it's bad that I did that thing. It doesn't mean that like, you know, this thing can't exist anymore. It's just that's not who I am anymore. You know, it's like thinking about it in that sense that like, you know, I'm physically not the person I was back then. Like, you know, I've lost all these cells, I've lost skin and gotten new skin and sort of become like a new entity. So I can be this person and that work can be what it is, and it's all fine, like they can coexist.
You molted.
Yeah.
Alright, okay, cool. We're caught up on tickets. I don't know who Steph Bromus is, but they say it hurts to look at my old After Effects animation for Yuki.
It's probably Steph.
Oh yeah, it's Steph. Hey Steph.
Happy 10-year birthday to Yuki 7. I think this is a great way to celebrate 10 years.
Yeah.
She's definitely like a second grader by now or something. We're at 5:52. Let people know that this is the last couple minutes to get in your orders.
If you purchase anything from the anything Yuki 7 related from our website, you'll get a raffle ticket. Or if you get any of Kevin's prints as well, you get a raffle ticket for every item you purchase, and then we'll put it in here, and you have the chance to win. There's two prizes. One is this poster from our original show, and it's signed by Kevin, and the other prize is the Yuki 7 bundle, which is 2 books, pin set, a shirt of your choice, a Yuki 7 shirt of your choice, and this new print as well. So yeah, last couple minutes before we announce it. I'm thinking we're gonna let Kevin draw the winning numbers. So
here, you can put in some tickets.
Oh yeah, there we go. Here, let's put in some tickets.
Are we talking about the space shuttle prints? Are those
yeah.
out?
Those are out, yeah.
Let me go grab them.
So, for anyone who's been following my work for a while, there was a series of space shuttle prints that I did a few years ago. I did each of the 5 shuttles that were in service, and they were all done as limited edition screen prints, which we sold out of quite a while ago. But Ben and Nucleus have done a new run of digital prints that are in new sizes.
And this is the smaller size.
So yeah, this is there's a new smaller size of the prints that's available. We have them all. I was also able to go back and correct something that somebody pointed out to me at Comic-Con a while back that's been bothering me ever since. That I didn't, in the original print, I didn't have the leading edge of this line on the Space Shuttle Columbia correct, because it was different on that particular shuttle. So I fixed it for this edition. So now,
good to know.
If you buy a Space Shuttle Columbia print, you'll get one that actually looks like the Space Shuttle Columbia.
This is one of our big ones. These bad boys are 35 inches.
Yeah, so this is new monster size. So
monster size.
the original screen print edition we did was sort of in between these two sizes. So now there's a small and a large to go with the original medium size.
I think they're neat. They're so neat. Me and Ben were just
Yeah, I love
staring at
these.
them earlier.
I love these. These are.
Yeah, the space program is something that's always just been a huge inspiration to me, and I just remember seeing the shuttle as a kid and just thinking that is like the coolest thing anyone's ever done. Like that's just like I don't know how things can get cooler than this. And years ago when they brought the shuttle to LA, we went out and saw it down near Crenshaw Boulevard, and we're waving to it. Like it was it just it's hard to describe like what it even means to me. It's just like it just kind of symbolizes everything hopeful in the world to me, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Urban Tale says, I'm still amazed how the color on print looks so nice, just like on screen. Matching colors on print are a unique challenge. Thanks, man, I know. I may be the producer here, but I'm the print production person in real life.
That's true. Yeah, these turned out great.
Yep. Thanks for the compliment, Urban Tale. I'm taking that one with me.
Yeah, they look great. They look
All right. How we doing, everyone? We back? Tick tock, tick tock. Beep, beep, beep. What a time for the sound to go out.
there we go.
There we go. All right. Okay, let me check core one more time to see if we have any last minute entries. I'm switching between like 8 windows.
Just 4.
Oh. Okay. Refresh. Anyone here that I did not get? Nope. All right. 5:58 p.m. Let's get a drum roll going. Oh wait, quick thing. Who designed the pins?
Oh,
Kevin.
well,
Right? I mean,
no. So the pins are based on a pattern that one of our designers, Junyi Wu, did for the thing. We had her come up with a couple of really amazing patterns, and so these pins, I basically sent that pattern to Nucleus and said, I think these would make cool pins, and then you guys vectorize them and turn them into the pin designs.
Our
So
friend
from our
Michaela.
Side, from our side, it's artist named Michaela who vectorized them, and we kind of simplified some of the colors so that the outline would be bold. Nice touch.
Alrighty, 5:59 p.m. drum roll.
Yay.
You have to give them the tickets.
Okay. I'll drum roll. You can pick. Wait, let's mix it up. Yeah. Go ahead and mix it up.
Yay! Alright, prize number 1, the poster.
Yeah, so this is the poster prize. Okay.
The poster prize,
Poster
go
prize
to
first. Okay, poster prize.
Jean Harris.
Gallego? Gina Gallego.
Gina
Yes.
Gallego.
Here you go, Gina.
Thanks, Gina.
Congrats.
Yay!
All right, here we go again. This is the bundle prize.
The bundle prize.
Grayling Cole?
Grayling Cole? Or Grayling Cole?
Let me get the actual name. I might have misspelled it. Grayling Colsey? Grayling Colsey? Well, yep, you won, Grayling.
Yes. Tell us. All right. Tell us what size and design of T-shirt you'd like to get, and we'll grab that for you.
We'll do it. We really will.
Yep.
All right, and that is our show today. Ben has to be somewhere else, and it is 97 degrees. Thank you for joining us today,
Yes,
Kevin.
Thank you very much, Kevin. This was awesome, and we are really looking forward to the next 2 episodes. Is there anything else you want to plug before we go?
No, I mean, if you guys want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, we've already got the episode 2 page up there, so you can set a reminder for when the premiere is going to be. There's also the Yuki 7 website, yuki-7.com, where you can watch the countdown and everything. And just follow Chromosphere on socials, and we'll have all the updates. And just thanks for watching the stream, thanks for watching the show, and thanks, Nicholas, for